All right, we can move on into questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a great session, and including myself, I think I will have to go and rewatch it and go through the numbers and think about it and share it even with my husband. He's the financial person in the family
Yeah,
more. But
yeah, no, it's fun
I
stuff.
I hope you have time because we
I
have
do, I
like
do.
around 34 questions for you now. I put for you in the
Let's
chat.
do it.
And if possible, Bradley, like if you can read the question first and then
Okay.
so people who are watching us can know what was the question first.
All right. All right. All right. Let me get to the top of our list. So I've got the questions. Thank you for sending those over to me. All right. Okay. It's going to be a big one. All right. So, first question: what is the best tool to use to track expenses in an easy way? All right. This is an easy one. The best tool to use to track expenses in an easy way is just get a business credit card. Okay. And the cool thing about this is when you open it, this is all about business structures. So when you open a business bank account, typically you're going to get a bonus. Number one, they're probably going to give you $100 to open a business bank account. Number two, typically when you open a business bank account, you also have an option to get a business credit card. Now, please, like, use it for business expenses only, right? And generally, when you open a business credit card, you're going to get another two or three hundred dollars in bonuses for opening a business credit card. So these are some of the benefits. So right out of the gate, you're going to get a few $100s just for opening a business bank account and opening a business credit card. If you're not comfortable with that, then get a business debit card, right? And you can do that. So if you know you have a history with credit cards and it hasn't been a friend to you, then look at a debit card. Either way, a debit or credit card for your business, put that on all of your business transactions. That literally tracks all of your expenses for your business. Now it's taken care of, right? That is your hotel cost, your travel cost. If you're going to Salesforce events, if you're paying for Salesforce certification expenses, if you're buying a program like the freelance program, all of that can go on your business credit card. And now at the end of the year, you don't have to think. It should all be right there on your business credit card. So hopefully that's helpful.
And Bradley,
Um,
I think the reason was if they want to dig deeper, how they are spending and how they can cut costs. Like, is there
oh, thank
something
you.
that like you think
Thank you. Thank you.
we
Thank
can
you.
use it to track like the areas or the pockets they are spending in?
Yeah, so the best tool, I'd love to hear from others, but there are tools like Mint, which is, I know, a really popular one. There is the one I personally use. Let me open it up. It used to be called Empower, I believe, or maybe that's what it's called now. Yes, it is currently called Empower, Empower. That is a free app that I use. I link my bank accounts, link my credit cards, and I can get those breakdowns anytime. If you happen to have all of your banking with one company, like Chase, for example, if you have all your credit cards and all your bank accounts at Chase, generally they're going to have at least some basic dashboards to show you your expenses by category and things like that. But what I personally use is Empower. Again, it is free, link everything up, and you can break down everything by category.
Thank you so much.
All right, next question. What is the difference between freelancing and being a contractor? All right, and I'm going to take this question a little bit further and say there's a lot of words you're going to hear out here. So, freelancing is going to be generally, there are some minute details, but at this point in this journey for you, a freelancer is basically the same thing as being a fractional, like a fractional resource. It's basically the same thing as being a solopreneur, all independent consultant. So freelancer, solopreneur, independent consultant, fractional resource. You can find some detailed differences. They are basically the exact same thing. So when you see these hype words like, we're not talking about freelancing, we're talking about solopreneurship, you are talking about the same thing. Like, don't make it different. Okay. I guess solopreneur would technically mean you never hire an employee.
Mhm.
Fine. All right. So, to answer the question, what's the difference between a freelancer and a contractor? Now, generally, a contractor is a person who is on a fixed term. So, a contractor usually does works for what's called a contract, and they would do like 40 hours a week for, say, a 6 month contract. That is not what freelancing is. Freelancing, think of it more like uh, being a solo consultant, an independent consultant. You're going to have multiple clients. Some might need you 5 hours a week, others might need you 10 hours a week. So you're balancing working multiple clients or multiple projects just like you would at a consultancy. But instead of making 100K at a consultancy, you're going to make $100 an hour for yourself. And we can get into the details, but don't even worry about hourly rates because there's these things called managed services agreements that blow all the numbers out of the water. So anyway, I could go deeper. Now, technically, from a tax perspective, if we're saying contractor, as in like a 1099 contractor from a US tax perspective, you would be a contractor, like a contracted resource. So you would expect to get like a 1099 tax form at the end of the year for how much you got paid and have to pay taxes on that kind of thing. But a contractor, you don't do like 6 month gigs at 40 hours a week. You generally would do something much different. So most of mine were about 30 hours a month would be my long-term contracts. It'd be like 30 hours a month, really flexible for a full year at $130 an hour, for example. Or you might do singular projects where it's like, I'm going to do one project, it's 100 hours for a specific case. And I'll get in, it'll get done in a few months, and I'll get out. That's generally how freelancing works, is it's much more flexible and not so rigid like you would expect with a contract. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 3. What about inflation, price increases? Sorry, let me phrase this as a better question. So the question is, what about inflation and price increases from now until we retire? So you are correct with this question. Yes, things will go up. So as you approach your retirement date, you will be able to, or your FI number, your FI date, you'll be able to say, okay, well, in today's dollars, does the money I have saved, is it 25x my annual expenses? If it's not, we need to work a little bit longer, right? So you need to make that adjustment as you're approaching that date. However, the 4% rule or that 25x number, if you have 25x at that day on your FI date, it is already inflation adjusted. So you can trust that that number is going to work for you for the rest of your life at that point. As long as you have 25x your annual expenses on the day you retire, then you will have 25x inflation adjusted. You'll be taken care of for the rest of your life. So hopefully that makes sense. The 7% that we assume in the math that we did actually takes care of a 3% adjusted for inflation amount. You can get into that, but it does. Let's see. Question number 4. Annual expenses increase and decrease based on our life stage. Kids versus no kids versus more, sick, etc. How can we calculate it with 25x annual expenses to be our FI number? So again, as you approach that FI date, you will know a little bit better about what you can expect your expenses to be. You're right, because as kids, expenses go up and down, right? However, once you get your spending habits generally in check, you will find that they don't fluctuate nearly as much as someone who doesn't have their spending habits in check. They don't accidentally spend $20,000 on vacation one year, right? Because your spending is in check. So healthcare can come up, right? And we can talk about this all day, but generally, we have already gone from what we can expect a 10% annual interest on our money. We've already brought that down to 7%. So we have about a 3% buffer for some of these changes. Also, some people call this barista-fi, as sort of like the tag word for it. If your expenses somehow get so out of control in retirement that you're not even close anymore, the great news is they call it barista-fi because generally, if you can just add, say, $10,000 a year, that's going to cover any wild out of left field expenses that somehow you didn't account for. And that could be working part-time at a coffee shop or working part-time at a coffee shop, at like a bookstore or something like that, right? So you could do something you enjoy, generally make about $10,000 a year and cover those expenses. So you're right that there are some concerns, but I wouldn't allow that to tell you, well, none of this works because none of this math works because there's a fringe case what if that might happen. You're right. But I can promise you that having $2 million dollars in the bank is going to make you feel a whole lot better about some of those expenses coming up. And that's happened in my life. Like, truly, that's happened in my life. Like, expenses changed a lot or income changed a lot. And suddenly it was like, oh no. But then it was like, but it sure is nice to have over $1 million in the bank that I can access and I can make adjustments as I need to. But generally, that 4% rule or that 25x your annual expenses is going to, it's already buffered in for inflation. It's got an extra 3% buffer on what you should expect to make. It's generally going to take care of you. And if it doesn't, you'll see it coming, right? And things like you might be eating steak dinners and just like a normal life when you have income, you might go, you know what? I'm not going to eat out as much right now because I have these other expenses. And you can still adjust yourself. I'm not going to go on vacation this year because a health situation came up. I'm not going to, we're going to, trade our car in for a cheaper car because this came up. And that might happen, but you have years and years and years to make adjustments because you have money in the bank to help bridge that gap. So hopefully that helps. But generally, that's not going to happen as long as you have 25x on the day you retire.
Yeah, okay.
I hope that helps. Next question. So, our location and where we live does impact calculation chances for freelancing. All right. So I would say that where you live shouldn't impact your chances for freelancing as much. It will definitely impact your expenses. And the really cool thing is, I'll say from an expenses perspective, when you reach financial independence and no employer can tell you where to live or where you're allowed to work from or anything like that. And for most of us, that's not a big deal, especially in Salesforce careers, but for some it is. And the cool thing is we have some people like moving to Mexico, right? Or moving to Portugal. Those are like two really, popular places to move. Why do they do that? Well, I think you could guess why they do that, right? They do that because suddenly instead of needing $100,000 a year, they need $50,000 a year, and they can retire another 10 years earlier by making that choice. However, you might live in like say like Bay Area, San Francisco, right? And then in the future, you might decide, you know what? I would be totally fine with living on the outskirts a little bit further out, or maybe not. But the cool thing is, if you're in a high cost of living area, odds are, as life goes on and you move towards retirement or into retirement, you can make big adjustments to actually get your expenses even further down if you choose to, or you can keep living in that high cost of living area if that's meaningful to you, right? It's all about value and what you value.
Mhm.
Your chances for freelancing, though, we have freelancers in our freelance program successfully right now, off cuff. Bolivia, France, Brazil, the US, Canada, your typicals, right? Like the UK. Um, I know one's in Scandinavia right now. So um, I don't think that freelancing is because of it's just the way it functions. Because you are a 1099 resource, you can work for companies in the US from anywhere in the world. The employment laws and regulations don't apply the same way they do to a full-time employee. So things are way more laid back.
And Bradley, I just to sorry to interrupt, but I think no, because I saw it in other questions as well that are coming. I think there is concerns on the other way around. Like if you live in the Middle East, India, or like Mexico, so where like the currency is like currently the living expenses are less. But
Hmm.
if you decide in the future to move to US or to other country where the expenses are more or the exchange rate is more,
Sure.
like should you do your FI numbers based on where you wish in the world to retire or your current? And the
Yes.
in that case as well, the freelancing chances, like if you don't live in the US or North America, like how that would work for them.
Yeah, so to reiterate, you don't need to live in the US to freelance in the US, just to be clear.
Mhm.
So you can freelance from anywhere in the world. However, yes, if you plan to move to a higher cost of living area in retirement, you need to save for a fine number based on that assumed expense. Because you're not magically just going to have more money because you moved, right? And if you expect to buy like $1 million yacht in retirement, you're going to need to have that money, right? Like the same applies. If you expect to spend a lot more money in retirement, you're going to need your FI number to make sense for that. So if you expect your rent to be more, it needs to be 25x what you expect your retirement life to be like. Or you could accept that, okay, this is my FI number, but if I make that big move, I know I'm going to have to work a part-time job and make $50,000 a year to make up for that difference. So there's always going to be situationals. Like I said, like if you suddenly decide that you were happy with your Honda Civic, but now you want to drive a Bentley, then yeah, you're going to have to adjust your FI number to adjust for that increased expense. But you might find yourself currently driving a $20,000 car and decide you're chill with a $10,000 car. And so it can go both ways.
Yeah.
You do need to be, this will require discipline in order to make the numbers have to work, right? Or
Yeah.
you can go back to work and save a little bit more money and make the numbers work out.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
For sure. Um, the next question is, how does one handle healthcare? So I do want to tell you, I'm going to answer two questions at once because these typically come up together. I would argue that your retirement benefits, I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to talk about retirement for a second. Your retirement benefits are, I would argue, better as an independent than they are working for a company. Most companies try to, we call it golden handcuffs. They try to handcuff you to the company through healthcare and retirement plans. Generally speaking, the retirement plans at companies are stealing your money. And you would be better off not putting your money into those retirement plans because of their fees. And even with fees at less than 1% a year, over a 40-year period, that can be $500,000 to $1 million that would have been in your bank account that they took away with a 0.5% fee, but it adds up. So retirement plans, generally you have way more options as an independent entrepreneur effectively than you do working at a company. And now some companies match and they have these great benefits and all this kind of stuff. That's awesome. Generally speaking, the retirement benefits are better solo. Healthcare. When it comes to healthcare, there are, number one, you can get healthcare on the free market, and that should be considered as part of your FI number, right? Like that is a part of your life expense. A lot of people might have a spouse that already works and has healthcare. I, for 4 years, had a part-time job, and I worked 15 hours a week, and they covered all my healthcare. I am now and have participated for the last 10 years in what's called a health share. And that runs about, I believe the one I use, it's a family plan. It's $600 a month. And we use a health share. So there's all kind of open market options for healthcare that most people are not aware of because they have been handcuffed to a company for their entire career. And once you open yourself up, you'll realize there are options because you're not the only small business owner or freelancer or independent. There's a huge market for that. So for the last 10 years, I've paid $500 to $600 a year, per month for health insurance for my family. And the other thing I would say is go look at your premiums that are taken out of your paycheck. A lot of people are like, healthcare is included at my company. And they go check and it's $500 a month in premiums. And then they have to pay deductibles on top. And then they have to pay, whatever the shares are. So just keep in mind that even if you're getting healthcare at your company, there are free market options. And a lot of times your company is charging you quite a lot of money to be part of that healthcare because that company is in bed with a healthcare company. And we all know healthcare companies like to get paid.
That's a good
Okay.
advice.
Yeah, so hopefully that's helpful. That's it. Those are big topics. Those are big topics. So not things I can answer exactly what to do, but there are options that are great. All right. So next question: if someone retires at age 45, hold on, I'm gonna get some water real quick. If someone retires at age 45 versus someone at age 60, the number they need to save in comparison to average number of years we live on retirement would be different. It would actually be exactly the same. So it's all about how much you're spending. And so it is weird, right? That's like, it throws you off. Now let me say, this is if you are going after financial independence. Okay.
Mhm.
Financial independence means your money lives on forever and you can hand it off to your kids. Now, if you expect to spend every penny that you have, that's not financial independence. That is just saving enough money. And that's where we get into those mindsets where it's like, well, you should go look at someone in your health condition and just guesstimate how long that person's going to live, right? Because now we have to look at life expectancy dates for those kind of things. So 60 to 45, but that 45-year-old could die at 50, or that 60-year-old could die at 80. So how long, how much money you need, we don't know because we don't know when we're going to die. So you actually have no clue. So we'd have to guess. And so with financial independence, there's no more guessing. It's 25 times your annual expenses, and you never spend the lump sum. So if you save $2 million, you're going to be able to live off $80,000 a year, and you will never touch the $2 million. In fact, the $2 million will get a little bit bigger each year to adjust for inflation because you'll need a little bit more. And then you'll be able to hand that off to your family, donate it, your kids, whatever you want to do. The $2 million will still be there. So if you live so long that you're 95 years old and you still have the $2 million, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to spend it all, I'm not giving it to anybody, you can do that if you want to. But the way the financial independence math works is not assuming you're going to spend any of it. In fact, you are living off the interest. And that is why it's a perpetual money making machine. And you can hand it off to your children, and they will inherit a perpetual money making machine. Or you can spend it all up and not give it to them, right? But the math, the way the financial independence math functions is not the same as assuming you're going to try to figure out how much you can spend to spend up all your money before you die. It's not the same concept. How do you travel for free? I'm just going to recommend go to ChooseFI, ChooseFI, ChooseFI.com. Totally free. All their stuff's free. They have a Facebook group. They have a podcast. I'm good friends with both of the Brad and Jonathan, the owners of ChooseFI. There's nothing for sale. Go look up credit card hacking is what it's called. I promise it's not as scary as it sounds. Look up credit card hacking or travel hacking. Those are kind of the two words you would use. And they have different strategies where basically you can travel for free up to a certain amount, like maybe $5,000 a year is about as much as you can do. But they have some really creative people in there who do a lot of called travel hacking. And it's kind of like a game. And I would say it's way more fun than Trailhead because you go on vacations afterwards
Oh,
instead of
awesome.
having another badge. Okay. So next question, is the 445K in something in the bank, or does it include the valuation of the house, investments as well? I'm guessing exclusive. It is the amount of money you can take off your FI number. Okay, so we're talking about the slide where I broke down that I had $17,800 in expenses annually that I'd saved. And because we multiply that by 25, that's $445,000. I hope I'm doing that math right, or remembering that slide right. And then, so the 445,000 saved in that situation, does that include the valuation of the house, investments as well? I'm not quite tracking with this question. So that slide where we share the 445K, I'm just going to reshare real quick. Let me pop back to this one. This is actually the amount I was able to cut out of my annual expenses times 25 means I don't need that money in retirement anymore. So I no longer need to save $445,000. So it's $445,000 that if I were to keep all of these expenses in my life, I need this much more money in order to retire because that's the money I'm going to need to give me interest in my savings to then pay for these bills each year. But if I cut these bills out of my life, I no longer need to save that lump sum towards my FI number because I'm no longer going to need to cover these expenses. So I don't need that money working for me in my perpetual money making machine. So that effectively is going to allow me to retire earlier because say I'm saving $50,000 a year, that would be basically an extra 9 years I would need to work to get that $445,000. And so I don't need that money anymore. So I don't have to work those extra years to get there. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. All right, next question. How do you handle life goals and spending if you're married? Oh gosh, that is a monster question. It's not an easy one.
So just to
It's not an
continue the
easy one.
question, because anyone
Oh,
who's
sorry, sorry,
watching,
sorry.
sorry,
Okay. Okay, so the question is, how do you handle life goals and spending if you are married and each of you value different things? And that is a big question. That's a big question for everyone, right? Like, look at the percentage of marriages that end in divorce. It's not just about this question. The question becomes, can you even live with another person for the rest of your life that you married, right? So
Mhm.
now, how are we supposed to decide if we're going to agree on spending and how we spend and how we save with a person for the rest of our life? That's a big question. A lot of people do it differently. I'm going to recommend that ChooseFI group again. There are a lot of personal finance groups, but that's a financial independence community. Um, Tens of thousands, maybe 200,000 plus people in there. You can get a lot of different perspectives on this, but marriages are like any relationship, right? They're different. You might have somebody who's excited, and there's entire podcast episodes through ChooseFI about converting your spouse. And it's not about tricking them or convincing them. It's about opening them up to this. And I think what some people had success with talking about, like, hey, we don't get to spend as much money now, but we're going to buy our future. We're going to purchase time in the future. And that's a really nice thing to be able to save for, right? And just adjusting the way you have to figure out what are the values of your spouse. And the truth is, you're going to have to come to an agreement where you think about what you value, what your kids value, what your spouse values, because everyone's opinion matters. If you're like me, like I value my children's opinion and they should have a voice in the way we live our lives. And if you don't, that's okay, however you want to parent. And I think the same should go for your spouse. You should value what they value in their life, or at least respect it. And if that's an expense, then we just need to figure out how to get another freelance client and save for that number, right? If you're not married yet, this might be a meaningful conversation that you should have with people that you're dating or people you're considering marrying and see if you guys are on the same page about this, because it could have a really massive impact on your life. It could be the difference between working until you're 65 or working until you're 35, right? Depending on where you are. So it's a big question. That is not something I can answer. But I'll say don't give up on it. Open that door, open that conversation, look at ChooseFI in the community group, ask that question. You can post anonymously in ChooseFI and you can say, like, here's my situation, here's what I'm up against, what do I do? And it's going to take time. That one conversation is going to be a lifetime of conversation. People change, right? Like your spouse might decide they like spending money on something else tomorrow. And you have to adjust to that because that's what relationships are.
Yeah.
All right. So next question. What are the best ways you think people should invest in stocks, real estate, gold? Okay. So I am a hardcore look, just get your S&P 500 stock and let it sit and walk away, and you don't have to think about it. If you invest with Vanguard, the stock is called VTSAX, and that is effectively like a mirror of the S&P 500 or pretty darn similar. And these are just low risk. You can expect about a 10% return annually. It depends on who you invest with. Me personally, I know real estate is great for people. I know gold and minerals are great for people. For me personally, I prefer a set it and forget it. There is an author called J.L. Collins. He wrote a book, as authors do, called The Simple Path to Wealth, I think is what it's called. The Simple Path to Wealth. Thank you for that head nod, Casey. It's a great book, and it breaks down kind of why you could do all these other things. You could do real estate and gold, or you could stock trade, or you could try to buy the thing that's going to blow up and then sell it later. You could do all that. But odds are, yeah, there you go, the simple path to wealth. Odds are you're going to operate about the same as someone who just puts their money in an index fund and walks away. For me, I've bought the stocks, I've done the stuff. It takes away from what I call my brain bandwidth. I hate waking up in the morning and going to sleep at night wondering what the stock price is on my investment. Who cares? That's no way to live. I'm not going to let that take up mental space for me. I'd rather look my daughter in the eye while she's talking instead of worrying about how some stock did today, right? And that's the difference. So for me, I will work my Salesforce job. I'll do my Salesforce career and I will put my money away. If I were a real estate guru, I'd probably do real estate and put my money away. But it's not something I'm knowledgeable in, not something I feel comfortable in. So I would say low cost index funds, low risk index funds, hop in there, invest your money, over time, and you're going to get to the same finish line, and you're not going to have to think and worry so much. Um, Next question. The numbers are looking scary for me because I am joining from India. However, I want to retire with money by which I can have FI in any country I want to settle in. So I definitely want to dive into how we can increase income being in the Salesforce ecosystem. Yeah, I would say, especially if you're not in North America, um, or I would argue Australia, their income is fantastic. So anyway, if you're not in one of those countries that just pays top dollar for Salesforce careers, freelancing is, I would argue, the best way to make high income no matter where you live, right? You can make the top income no matter where you live. And I would say if you save your money no matter where you live, you could just have a default answer and say, I'm going to save enough money to reach financial independence living in the United States, right? Maybe not in a major central metropolitan, but on the outskirts. And if you save enough money to retire on the outskirts of a metropolitan area in the United States, then you probably have about enough money to retire most anywhere in the world at that point. And I will tell you, as you start saving money and you start realizing the impact of your money and how it impacts how many years you're going to have to work, you'll start adjusting and going like, you know what? Maybe I don't need, maybe where I live isn't the most important thing to me. And maybe I can live in, I'm happy to know I can live in India or Portugal or Mexico or Belize or, right? And I can live in, and there are some certain places I'm not going to be able to afford, right? I'm not going to be able to live in the New York City in Manhattan. I'm not going to be able to live in San Francisco off Market Street. And that's just a reality for me because I don't want to work an extra 25 years for that, but I can live pretty much anywhere I want to. And you'll make those adjustments as you go. I consider myself financially independent right now. I can't live anywhere in the world, anywhere in the whole world. I can't live anywhere in the world, but I can live most places in the world. And I think that's a pretty darn good middle ground.
Right.
If I am in my next question, if I am in my 40s, is it too late to start? Again, I'm just going to reiterate the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is today. No, right? And you're in your 40s. When can you retire by? We looked at the numbers. We can retire in 22 years, right? So you might be 62, and that may not be as fun as thinking about retiring at 35, but you're never going to retire at 35. You're in your 40s, and that's okay. So you could retire at 62, but what I'll say about this is it's better than retiring in your 70s. It's better than never retiring. It's better than leaving your family with a burden when you go, right? So I would say starting late, it may not necessarily pay off for you the same way it might pay off for somebody else, but it might pay off for your kids. It might pay off for your family. It might pay off for that next generation. And that's pretty darn cool to be able to walk away and say you get close, you get halfway to financial independence, and then you get to work a part-time job when you're 60 instead of having to grind when you're 60, right? And then when your time is done, you get to hand off hundreds of thousands of dollars to your children, and so that they can start one level up from where you are. And maybe they don't have to ask whenever they're 40, is it too late for me to start? Because they will have learned it from you and they'll be well on their way. And that can make a generational change for you and your family. So I wouldn't worry so much about it for you. And I think it's still great for you. But I would say this is going to have a really big impact for beyond you, which I think is fantastic. Next question. I like this one. And one more thing. From India, shall I do this freelancing from India? Is it possible? Yes. I would say, yeah, freelance from India, unless you want to move, right? But there's no reason to move. When you're freelancing, there are stereotypes in the world. The best way that somebody's going to be able to guess where you're from is by your voice and your skin color and those kind of things, right? And that is the unfortunate reality of the world. It doesn't matter where you live, they're going to assume that about you anyway. So live wherever you want, right? So it's completely up to you where you live. If you want to move and you have enough money to move and you start freelancing and you realize I can move comfortably, then move. But don't move to freelance because it doesn't impact it. It's not important unless you had like a client. Some people might have an advantage living in the US because they have a client in Atlanta, Georgia, and they live in Atlanta, Georgia, and now they can go meet the client for lunch and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's great. But most freelancers, that is not the reality for them. They're working remotely 100%. So don't worry so much about where you live, would be my suggestion. We have a question. What kind of Salesforce career has this salary? So I'm assuming we're talking about the $110,000 a year salary.
Yeah.
Salesforce developers, business analysts, administrators, consultants, pick your niche, your specialty. Now, we are talking that is average income for someone in, I believe that stat was for North America or the United States. So, of course, it's going to have to be adjusted, right? That's the salary. Now, freelancing, the rates are pretty balanced globally. Salary, the rates are not balanced at all, right? You might be working locally in India, or I think Italy stands out as one of the lowest paying countries for Salesforce professionals. So, it's not just the Middle East or Asia or wherever else, right? Um, it varies country by country. And so I would say if you're in one of those low pay, I don't want to say low pay, if you're in one of those countries that globally pays on the lower end spectrum for Salesforce salaries, then freelancing might even more specifically be the right choice for you because you're going to be able to get higher pay. Now, so 110,000, that is normal in the United States for somebody with 2 to 3, 4 years experience right in there. $100,000 a year is pick your role. You can do project manager, engagement manager, business analyst, admin, consultant, developer. They're all going to be making six figures after those first couple of years. Um, Next question. 1 hour per day for freelancing task. Is it possible for admin, architect, developer, or specific roles only? I have seen anyone and everyone able to pull this off. Project managers are one. Like lately, like project managers, admins. Of course, like if you know something like CPQ or field service lightning or clients that specifically need Agentforce, but don't chase a specialty for a freelance client. There are companies that need everything. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely, I see a lot of roles for like LWC, Experience Cloud, anything and everything. I mean, like the one I just showed you in the Facebook group, I had somebody that was this week looking for, or last week looking for Service Cloud combined with AWS. Like of course, there's going to be a niche. But I talked to somebody this morning who just wants, it's a boutique consultancy owner, and they're just looking for somebody to do flows and declarative work like page layouts and creating fields and things like that. And the rate's like $75 an hour is what they're looking to pay. So there's room for everyone. You don't need to be in a specific role. What I will say is you need to be good at what you do. Like you can't suck at your role and expect someone to want to work with you. So you need to be good at what you do. So if you're going to call yourself a BA, be a good BA. If you're going to call yourself an admin, be a good admin. If you're going to be a technical architect, make sure you're a good technical architect, right? 20 certifications doesn't say anything. Are you good at what you do? Make sure you're good at what you do, and then just be good at it, and then you can market yourself as that. Next question, is there a way to, I think they're saying like get a contract in the US paid at US rate when being in Europe? Yes, we have a lot of freelancers in our group. Again, people in France, the UK. I'm a typical American, so I don't know what Scandinavia counts at. Is that Europe? That's got to be Europe, right? So anyway, maybe I need to be more traveled. But the short answer is absolutely. We have freelancers, like I said, like in Bolivia is one of the ones that was fun for me. And yeah, what her rate's like $110 an hour or something like that with a company that we were able to connect her with. So yeah, it literally doesn't matter. The companies, they need a worker. They know what the typical rates are. They're bringing you in to do a certain type of work. And if they're based in the US, these are the rates they're expecting to pay for help. And that's who they'll work with. Next question, the biggest question. We need to be consistent for 360 hours a year. Could we do that? Yes. There's this thing called a managed services agreement, which if you are in my program, that is what I'm coaching you towards constantly is don't do projects, do managed services agreements. And what that is kind of like a Netflix subscription or any kind of subscription. The client is subscribed to you. So for me, when I was freelancing, all of my clients were managed services agreements. And what that meant is one client, for example, They were typical client, not a big one. They paid $110 an hour and they had me for 30 hours a month. And that was $3,300 a year. Don't make me do the math on that times 12, but about $40,000 a year. And that was one client. I worked with them for 4 years and eventually I fired them because I just didn't need the work anymore. I didn't really fire them. I actually handed them off to one of my freelance members. So yes, yeah, all you need is one client on a 30-hour a month managed services agreement and you're taken care of for 1 hour a year. If you are freelancing in a way that does not allow you consistency, then you're not doing it right. And so that's what we coach to is consistency. You should never be chasing. Number one, if you're chasing projects all the time, you're wasting time marketing, selling, uh, sending people quotes that end up not buying. Like, don't do that. So when you do sell, get yourself into managed services agreements. Then you have long-term clients, treat them well, do great work, and they'll never want to replace you because you're mission critical to their company. So yeah, absolutely. I had three clients whenever I finished freelancing. I had three major clients, and they ranged from I had one that was 80 hours a month, and one that was 30 hours a month, and I forget what the other one was. And I was able to work 20 hours a week. And the cool thing is, like, let's stick to that 30-hour a month example. Um, you're on the hook 30 hours a month, but here's the kicker. Imagine months like, especially in the US, November and December get really slow because of Thanksgiving and Christmas and holidays for other religious groups and when they celebrate. And so we really slow down in November, December. And so I would have clients that were, I was on the hook for them for 30 hours a month, but in December, they would only use me for like 10 hours. And then in January, it would take a little while for them to get ramped back up and they might only use me for 20 hours. And so across those 2 months, I might only work 30 hours, but they still have to pay me for 60 because I'm on a subscription with them and they owe me 30 hours of reserve every single month. That is how a managed services agreement works. And that is normal. That is how Salesforce consultancies work globally. So most of them have managed services contracts with their clients. And if they don't, I promise you they're trying to get them. And that is how businesses build structure. That is how we build financial structure as consumers. And that is exactly how businesses build financial structure as well. So managed services agreements are what you're aiming for. Sometimes you have to start with that one project for 30 hours, knock it out, do an incredible job. And then you say, hey, I noticed some other things that need work. Here's some other things that I think we could do to really impact the way you're using Salesforce, improve your business, improve your ROI. And instead of doing another 30-hour project, I have some other clients that are, trying to hook me. I don't know if I'll be able to come back for another 30-hour project. Here's what I can do though. I can do 20 hours a month on a 1-year contract, 240 hours for the year. And now you've got 5 hours a week, right? So do good work and clients want to lock you in because it's a dual benefit. You lock in financial stability. They lock in you as a resource and don't have to worry about you not being available because they've locked you in. And that's really valuable. That's why people get employees. They want a person locked in, right? So the same companies that hire employees will also hire you fractionally. All right, grab some water. Are you okay to keep going, Sally?
Yeah, we can keep a bit more, yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's
I
it's
hope
a
this is
lot of
valuable.
it's a lot of good questions. It's hard to say like let's cut it short.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
keep
All
going.
right. We'll keep rolling then. Next question. Clients usually need 20 hours per week or 30 hours per week. Is it easy really to find clients who want to work only 7 hours a week? So first, I don't ever want to tell you that anything's easy. But yes, it's available. Clients, and I'd be interested in the data that backs that clients usually need 20 to 30 hours per week, because I would argue that there's really not any major data set that would agree to that. I would say you have just as many that want 20 or 30 hours per week as you do that want 5 or 10 hours a week. Like the guy I talked to this morning, he wants 3 hours a week. And I told him that was a little bit on the low end, right? Like 3 hours a week, are they even really going to be able to get much done for you? And he wants to start at 3, maybe 5 hours a week, right? So it just depends on who you're working with and who you're talking to. Most of the freelancers that I work with, they're generally, I'm trying to think without pulling up the tab. Usually less than 10 hours a week is very, very normal. I'd say 5 to 10 hours a week is very normal. You're talking about consultancies who or boutique. Maybe they just need them for BA work
Mm.
specifically. So there might be a big Salesforce implementation going on, but you're just the BA, right? So they have you on one project as the business analyst, and you're hopping on to either meetings or filling out project management type things, filling out requirement documentation, all that kind of stuff. And you might only be needed 5 hours a week for that kind of work. Now, if you're on a huge development build and you're the developer and you're the key developer, you're exactly right. You're probably going to be needed like pretty consistently 20 to 30 hours a week. So if you have availability for that, awesome. If you don't, then that's not the client you would go with, right? Or you might take that and then grab another freelancer and like subcontract and like both of you knock it out together, sort of thing. That's the other cool thing about being in a freelance community. When you need another freelancer, you know where to find them because there's a whole community of them right there trying to pick up clients and they're willing to come help you out. So it also bails you out of weird situations where, like, if you have a client that you're supposed to be doing something that's specific on, right? Like admin work. And now suddenly they have a question about Marketing Cloud and they need you to do 10 hours of work on Marketing Cloud. Well, if you're in a freelance community, you just tap one of your fellow Marketing Cloud experts on the shoulder and tell them you've got 10 hours of work you'd like for them to do. And you pay them for those 10 hours and they come bail you out and make your client happy. So yeah. So yes, I would say it's very normal. Yeah, there are just as many who need 20 or 30 or 40 hours a week of work, right? But for every one of those, there's a company that would also like to have less than that because they don't need that much work.
That's good.
All right, next question. Is the 1 hour freelancing doing Salesforce work or casual jobs? Salesforce work. So it's funny because I got started freelancing or teaching people how to freelance because I had like acquaintances in the Salesforce ecosystem who were like driving Uber or walking dogs or dog sitting and things like that for extra money. And I was just like, man, you're making like 20 or $30 an hour doing some of this like side giggy type work. Why don't you just do the same thing you do at work and make more? And yeah, it's going to be harder to find a client, but once you find a client, you're going to make tens of thousands of dollars and you're going to get better at your day job and better at freelance. It's like when you're freelancing, you're getting better at your day job. And when you're at your day job, you're getting better at freelancing. So it's fun how synergistic all of it is because you just do what you already do, right? So you don't have to learn new skills or anything like that. You just keep doing your Salesforce stuff. Got another question. I am from India. I have 2.9 years of experience looking to get freelancing long term for global teams. Could you guide me? Yeah, so that's really similar to some of the other things that we've covered. It's all about finding your clients. I would recommend if you want to join the program, awesome. Obviously, we teach it all. We do workshops, we do boot camps in there. If you want to take a shot at the DIY approach, then I would go to talentstacker.com/FI. And that will take you to a free course that will walk you through the basics of finding your own clients and things like that. What I can tell you is it's not websites like Upwork and Fiverr. I call that race to the bottom. Those are sites you can go to that will, you can race to the lowest possible price and try to land the worst possible project. And that's what those are good for. If you want to find your own clients, it is going to be you're actually building your own business, right? So it's going to be networking and meeting people and putting your name out there and shaking some hands and letting people know that you're freelancing. And that's what will open those doors for you. So that's kind of what we train to in the program is training you how to open those doors. We have a ton of success with it.
And are they,
Um,
because I saw it repeated, like the go-to platforms, like the ones you mentioned, like, or are not, from what you're saying, like, are not the highly recommended platforms. If there are other platforms, or it's mainly through networking and people, because I saw this question a couple of times.
so I would say my opinion, and my opinion is based on a lot of experience, that there is no platform that is going to be the answer to this question.
Hmm.
That'd be great, but here's what I would say is you can ask yourself, or you can actually ask, think about all the consultancies and like you can go look at the partner exchange and see all the consultancies out there. Go on LinkedIn and look at all those consultancies. And maybe you can DM somebody at the company, but maybe ask yourself, How many clients do you think those consultancies are getting off of Upwork? The
Hmm.
answer is zero. They're not going to Upwork to build a business. And you shouldn't either, because that's a great way to go find clients that'll pay you like $20 an hour, right? But you don't want to, and they're the type of clients who deserve $20 an hour work, because that's what they're going to get and that's what they're willing to pay. Um, so I would say, what's the number one platform for freelancers? LinkedIn. And I know that's weird, right? But that's where every business owner is. That's where the recruiters are. That's where the hiring managers are. That's where the Salesforce professionals are. Um, where else? Every single Dream event or Salesforce conference globally. That it's just a hodgepodge of Salesforce professionals, business owners, app exchange partners, vendors, ISVs that all use Salesforce and all need help with Salesforce. So we are fortunate to be in an ecosystem where we all hang out on social media inside of community groups together. Salesforce Saturdays, Trailblazer community groups, there's a new one like Trailhead Tuesdays. Like there's so many places to come spend time with other Salesforce professionals. And Salesforce professionals work at companies that use Salesforce. And those people sometimes don't need a 40 hour a week employee. They need somebody to do a project for them or be there for a specific need 5 to 10 hours a week, right? And so your clients are everywhere, but the
Hmm.
one place they're not is on Upwork. So go meet them where they are because you already know where they are. And we're fortunate to live in a virtual space where our clients are just hanging out waiting for us if we network and put ourselves out there consistently. Um, Another question, I am very new to Salesforce. Would I be eligible? The typical like rule of thumb I would say is you probably need about a year of hands-on experience before you should get into freelancing. And the reason for that is twofold. You're going to be a freelancer or sorry, you're going to be a Salesforce professional and a very small, but a small business owner. And so you're now doing two things. You've got to be good at Salesforce and you've also got to be okay with figuring out how do I handle profit and loss statements and paying taxes and business bank accounts and do I need an LLC? Do I need insurance? Do I need a website? How do I brand myself on LinkedIn without my employer seeing? All these kind of things, right? So it adds another element on top of being good at Salesforce. So I would recommend be good at Salesforce first, and that's a very generic statement, right? Like what is good, but you need to be confident with your Salesforce skills. Like I was saying, like you should be a good BA if you're going to go to a client and say, I'll be a BA for you. You should be a good admin if you're going to go to a client and say, I'm going to be an admin for you. I would say that freelancing, you are now a consultant. You are in control. And when you're in control, freelance clients, you're not a task doer anymore. And what I mean by that is that when clients are going to pay you $100 an hour, for example, they're not interested in giving you a shopping list of tasks to do. They need you to be the leader. So they're not going to tell you, I need a new field on the lead object. They're going to say, I've got a problem. I've got a pain point. I've got an issue. Can you help me figure out how to solution for this and build a solution that solves this problem? They're not telling you the solution and asking you to go build it. They're telling you a problem. And so you need to be good enough at what you do to be able to understand that problem, to put requirements around that problem, to put solutions around those requirements, and to implement those solutions. So that is very different than being a task doer. Task doers are the ones who make 20 bucks an hour. Consultants are the ones that make $100 an hour. So you need to be able to lead that client. You need to be able to, and that's what the freelance program is all about. It's like you need to be able to take them from here's how many hours I think it's going to take, here's your proposal, sign this contract. And then you don't sit there and go, okay, now what? No, 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 no. The client says, okay, now what? And you go, okay, great. I'm going to send you over a new client questionnaire. We're going to fill this out. We're going to hop on a business process requirements gathering session. I'm going to sit down with you for a few hours. I've got a list of questions I'd like to ask you. Here are the people I need in that meeting. That is how I'm going to get to your real problems. And then I'm going to have your requirements and then I can build my solutions. That's what you do. And that's what we train you to do is follow a true consulting process because you do not want to be the person who walks in the room and they go, okay, what are your questions? And you go, what do you need me to do? That's not a consultant. Okay. That's a go be an employee at a company and they'll tell you what to do all day long, and they'll fire you if you don't do a good job, right? That's what being an employee is. Being a freelance consultant, you are your own business owner. These clients are your assets. These clients are the structure of your business and how you grow. And the sky is truly the limit. But super long answer, I know. Um, I would wait until you're confident in a skill, or I would say 70% confident, because humans have this way of wanting to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be confident in your ability to do your job. Where can I find, next question, where can I find the podcast? So a couple of podcasts were mentioned. If you are looking for the financial independence specific podcast, that is ChooseFI, and that's the ChooseFI podcast. And then if you're looking for the podcast to learn more about like Salesforce and freelancing and those kind of things, that is called the Salesforce for Everyone podcast. That's my podcast. And you can find those on, you can go to talentstacker.com/media. That has like articles and you can listen to the podcast there, or you can go to Apple Podcast, you can go to Spotify. And the Salesforce for Everyone podcast is the top rated podcast in the Salesforce ecosystem. So bigger than all of Salesforce's podcast, bigger than any other podcast. It is the most listened to show in the Salesforce ecosystem and the highest rated. That may sound a little arrogant, but I'm just proud of it. It's an accomplishment, and I am proud of it.
That's great. I will try to put in the video description as well, the links for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So next question. All right. Sorry, I'll read the question.
Yeah.
How will AI change the situation from here on? Any way to overcome this challenge, assuming we have 5 to 10 years before everything is automated by AI? Okay, so here is what I will say about AI. I guess about what? It was about 3 or 4 years ago. It was by now it was supposed to have everybody's job, but it doesn't. So that's one thing. So I'm a data-driven person, so I like to look at facts because we can spend our entire life thinking about what ifs. Okay, so we can say, what if in 5 to 10 years it takes everybody's job? What if in 5 to 10 years it doesn't? Well, shoot, we got a lot of what ifs in between that, don't we? What if we assume AI is going to take everybody's job, so we just stop doing anything? Because it's all going to be gone in 5 years anyway, right? Probably not, right? We can all agree, probably not. So I think we could do what if we die tomorrow? Like we can do what ifs all day long. So let's not work with the ifs. Let's work with what we can see.
Yeah.
How will AI change the situation? I think it will probably become part of everybody's job. I think it will make us all better at our jobs as long as we adopt and embrace it. I think that Salesforce will continue to push AI and agents, and it will become part of every developer's job. It'll become part of every admin's job, BA's job. Everyone will be interfacing with some type of artificial intelligence tool or platform or feature or whatever it is. We're all going to be using it. And that's the reality. So I would say educate yourself, but don't fear monger yourself. Why would you do that, right? Like computers were supposed to replace people, calculators were supposed to kill accounting, all the things, but they've changed it. They've absolutely changed it, but they haven't killed it. So just like anything else, we just have to continue paying attention and listening. Don't get complacent. But I would say be inside of community groups and have open conversations. Be involved in your local community, and you'll see as things change. We've seen as things have changed in the last 2 or 3 years, and we have to adjust. But can you imagine how many people are still employed and have wasted so much time thinking about what AI might or might not do? And so I would just say, hey, look, see what you can get done by Friday and see what matters to you between now and then. And then next week, when you wake up on Monday, try to get as much as you can done by Friday. And that's all you can do. And just keep learning and adjusting and moving forward. It could be anything. There could be a meteor announced tomorrow. That's definitely like, we just don't know, right? So if we worry about all the things that could potentially happen in the future, we seriously, truly just do not know. But I promise if you just continue to better yourself, be a better communicator, make more relationships, network with more humans, get to know other people. These are all things that are only going to benefit you no matter what happens next. So I wouldn't worry so much about it. Embrace it, see if you can learn from it, and just be the best, right? And the fact that you're here probably means you're pretty darn good anyway. Because I think most people have this feeling that the entire Salesforce community is part of the Ohana, or all of the Salesforce professionals are part of the Ohana. The truth is, most Salesforce professionals don't know what Ohana means. They don't know about Trailblazer community groups. They go to work, they do their job, and they come home and they hang out with their family or do whatever else. They don't know what Dreamin' is. They don't care what Dreamin' is. They don't care what Dreamforce is. So the fact that you're here, the fact that you're involved in the online community of Salesforce outside of your day job probably means you're already in the top 10 to 20% of all Salesforce professionals anyway. So give yourself a pat on the back and just know you're already in the right spot. The fact that you're asking these questions and just put your best foot forward. And if you keep doing that day after day, you're going to be in a good position.
And Bradley,
Um,
if you allow me, like I want to add something as well.
yeah,
While embracing the AI, my advice is not to forget the basics. I see a lot of people who are starting to learn, like even development, sometimes they rely on AI and they don't learn. My advice is you have to learn and you have to learn the basics, how you can do things yourself and know it very well, because this knowledge will help you how you will put your request for the AI of what's the output, and it will help you judge what's the output as well. And at the same time, don't resist AI. You have to learn it because in the future, like if we have a developer who will get the job done in 8 hours and another one know their stuff but can get it done in 1 or 2 hours, will prefer the 1 to 2 hours developer. So the balance between the knowledge and embracing AI is very, very important as well. So that's my advice in terms of development. And that's how when I'm running the Salesforce like development learning sessions in Code with Sally, I teach the basics and I teach how to become a developer. And at the same time, we have the sessions teaching and learning how to use the AI tools. So that balance is very important for everyone. At least that's my opinion for now.
amazing. Thank you. Um, all right, so I'll hop into the next question. Does the freelance program help me land just the first client or ongoing? It's ongoing. We have some people who join because they want to land their first freelance client. We have some people who join and already have a freelance client, but they're not really sure how to grow. So we work with a lot of different people. We even help people who already have their businesses built. Like we have people in the program who have been in there for years and they've got, full rosters of freelance clients and we help them hire other freelancers and get the right people on their teams. So we have freelancers in there who are everything from they're happy with one client on the side, all the way to freelancers who have started their own consultancies and are Salesforce partners. So we've helped anything and everything, truly.
That's great.
Next question, being part of the program, do we have a unique pool of talents where clients reach and use to find talents? So I think the root of that question is, do we connect you with freelance clients? Here's what I like to answer this question with. I don't want you to join the program because you think we're going to hand you clients. Now, that does happen sometimes. You still have to interview, you still have to prove that you know what you're doing. But it's very normal for either myself or other freelancers in the group. I would say weekly, there are new freelance opportunities being posted privately in that group. However, I don't want you to join the program because you think it's just the silver bullet, quick answer. Like, I don't have to do any marketing or sales. I just get a client. Um, I want you to join the program because you want to understand the marketing and the sales component to building your own business and that you're going to be able to find your own clients. So we are 100% going to teach you exactly how to find clients. Consider it the icing on top that occasionally we are going to bring you potential clients also. But I don't want you to join it because you think we're going to give you clients. If I were going to give you clients, it would be a lot more than $1,000 because every client is going to be worth tens of thousands of dollars. So don't join expecting to just pay a fee and get
Mm.
freelancing. We're going to teach you how to be a freelancer. All right. So next question: are all of the templates in the program Salesforce or TalentStacker? I'm not 100% sure what that question means. All of the templates are to operate your business. I would say actually that none of the templates are specific to Salesforce or TalentStacker. They are specific to being a remote tech consultant. So you could actually do it even if you were doing like ServiceNow or HubSpot or whatever else. It would be applicable because they are business contracts, project plans, project timelines, requirement gathering documentation, solution documentation, status reports, upselling clients, training decks, all those kind of things. So each template is a starting point that then has to be modified for your specific use case. However, that starting point is going to, number one, make sure that you're using legal contracts. And number two, make sure that you're using documentation that is on par with enterprise consultancies and what even the most astute clients are going to expect to see, not some email with a quote in it or an email with a list of the requirements on an Excel spreadsheet. Like they're expecting to see quality documentation. Um, Next question. Do we get any free exam vouchers for Salesforce certificates? The answer is no. Sometimes I will get those through TalentStacker. I don't want you to buy a program expecting a voucher. Um, so the short answer is no. The other thing I will say is freelancing does not require any specific certifications. So you don't need to get another certification to be able to be a freelancer. We have freelancers who have no certifications. Most have at least a couple of certifications. But it's just like getting a Salesforce job. You need certifications that highlight your actual ability to do things. And so the freelance program is not about learning CPQ, for example. It's about being a great business owner and a great consultant, how to find clients, how to market, how to sell, and connecting you and networking you with other clients and freelancers in the Salesforce space. And we do have the largest Salesforce freelance community globally. Next question. This is a big one, so get
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
Does the freelance program have lifetime access? The short answer is no. It is 6 months access um, because 6 months is all you need. I promise. If you just dedicate, you won't need me anymore in 6 months because I'm going to teach you how to do it all. If you want to continue past 6 months, I think it's like $40 a month to keep going past that if you want to. My hope is that you won't need to. But also my hope is that you'll want to because you'll see just how much value there is. But if you use the program, you're not going to need more than 6 months of access. You'll be off to the races. My hope is that you'll stay with us simply because you understand the value of updates to the program. The live events are really helpful for you. Being able to do questions and answer sessions and learn from other freelancers is helpful to you. And you know that being in the community helps you hire subcontractors for your company and helps you get hired as a subcontractor for other freelancers. So I think there's enough value there, but I don't want you to come in and want to be there for a lifetime because you don't, if I do my job correctly as an educator, goodness, I hope you don't need me for a lifetime. 6 months should be plenty. If having the is having the Salesforce platform admin certification, I cannot believe that is the name of the cert. Is having the admin cert and the BA cert going to help you be a great Salesforce freelancer? I'll answer this the way I talk about certifications. No, no certification is going to make you a great anything. A certification means that you can get a 65 or a 70 on a multiple choice test. To be fair, in most education systems, that would be failing. So if a failing grade makes you great at something, then I just don't think that's true, right? So I think that they can be indicators, right? But there's such a problem globally with people cheating on exams, people having other people take exams for them. It doesn't matter. Here's what I'll tell you, because I think it's the root of the question. Most clients are going to want to see an admin cert, a BA cert. It looks good. People like to see it. However, you can have 20 certifications and not be good at Salesforce, right? You may not be a good communicator. You might not be up to date on the latest features, all those kind of things. So I would encourage you, yes, a couple of certifications, especially like platform certifications like BA or admin, are going to make you look competent. However, you know what you can do, right? Like imagine you have a list of requirements. Can you go do those in Salesforce? If you can, great, then you're probably competent. If you can't, then you know you need some work and it's not a certification. You need to get some experience, right? And that's why I usually say having a year of hands-on experience is a good baseline before you start freelancing because it tells you, I've gotten my hands dirty. I've done, a few hundred or thousand hours of work on platform. I know what I'm doing. The next part of this question is it difficult to transition in working as a Salesforce certified pro for a company to deciding to be a Salesforce certified professional freelancer? Is it okay? So is it difficult to transition from basically a full-time employee job over to being a freelancer? Is the transition difficult? I'll say what most people do is they keep their full-time job and they pick up a client. And then they end up having a second client, and then they're kind of overworked at that point. They have a full-time job and they have two clients, and it becomes too much. And what they'll do is they'll try to find that third client. And as soon as they find that third client, they'll quit their day job. Because usually, if you have three clients, let's assume you're working about 20 hours a week with three clients, usually you'll make just as much working 20 to 25 hours a week as a freelancer as you will at a full-time job. So usually when people get to that third client, they quit their day job before they start that third client. And the kicker is, if you do it right, you can usually convert your day job into a client. And you can convince them that it's better to work with you, say 10 hours a week as a freelancer than it is to have you totally quit. So at least you can help train them. You can train the next person. You can do the mission critical things. And you'll do that 10 hours a week. And so usually when you quit your day job, they become another client for your roster, as long as they like you, of course. But no, I don't think the transition is particularly difficult. You do have to do like invoicing, status reports, things that may not be normal in your day job. So there's some things that change, but I wouldn't say it's particularly difficult to transition. Next question. Does the code Sally work on every course you have? Yes, actually it does. So if you've got your eye on a different program that is not the freelance program, then you can use that to take 10% off. If you want to join like the career development program or something like that, you can do that too. Next question. Do we have access to the documentation permanently or for a set amount of time? So all of the templates and videos are downloadable. So the great thing is if you get 6 months access, but if you decide you want it for longer, you can grab all those templates and download them, save them wherever you want them. However, what you're not going to get is access to the community, the live events, or any updates to the program materials, but you can absolutely effectively take the program with you when you go, as far as like templates and videos and that kind of thing. How long is the course? So the way it's structured from a live perspective, you have 6 months access, but the way we structure from a live perspective is there's one boot camp every 6 months, which is, I think it's only like 5 sessions over a 2-week period. It's not a huge thing. So it's about 10 hours of live sessions over a 2-week period where we really get your ground game in place and get you structured. From there, we'll do monthly meetings, either once or twice a month, where we'll open you up for questions. We'll dive deep on like marketing or dive deep on sales, or we'll have one of our successful freelancers come answer questions either one-on-one or as a panel, so that you can learn from other freelancers who are already successful. So we kind of open that up. That's how the course functions, I'll say. But you could absolutely land your first client in the first, I would say expectation wise, you're going to be learning a lot in the first month. And then you're probably going to be getting proposals out in month 2. And you should have your first client or first clients even by the end of month 3. So expect about 90 days to have your first clients with you, but then you're good to go as a business forever. And then the next 3 months are really just about if life happened and you got delayed, or you have specific questions, or you're actually working with your clients and new questions have come up, that gives you a chance to continue to work with us and get confident in your ability as a independent consultant. And of course, like I said, we're always happy to have you continue your access if you'd like to. Um, do we do individual coaching on TalentStacker? So we don't do individual coaching simply because it's not price effective. It just gets expensive to have somebody coach you one-on-one. Um, so what we do though is we do have the boot camp. We have the monthly sessions that are open, and we also have the community. So I am in the community every single day answering questions. Other freelancers are also answering your questions. You always have email support. We always get back to you in less than 24 hours. You can always join the live events, and we always have time. Just like this, the session was for an hour, right? And we've gone almost 2.5 hours. I am always happy to spend time at the end of our live event sessions and answer every single question until they're all done. So the experience you have here is the same experience you will have inside the program. Um, so rest assured, if you have questions, we're going to get you the help you need because our program credibility is based on your success. And what a cool place to be, right? When you can join a program where I only have success if you're successful. Because if everyone who joins doesn't have success, then my program is done immediately because it's going to get a reputation for not working. But our program has a reputation for working, and that's why we've been here for 7 years. So we'll keep going. We'd be happy to have you. And thanks everybody. And the fact that we still have whatever 20 plus people here after 2 hours is wild. So thank you for hanging out and spending time with me.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough. Like I didn't imagine like we will go over time that much, but as I mentioned, like I'm happy that we stayed. There was a lot of good questions, and I think the way I will do it, I will split the session into two on YouTube, so people don't get scared like that we have 2 hours session to go through it. It will be 1 hour for the explanation and like the tips you provided, and then like the Q&A. Or maybe I will put it to 2 hours. I have to think about it. But again, it's very useful whether or not like someone will join like your program. We learned a
Sure.
lot, and like the FI, and like we learned again how you can help and how you structured your program. So if someone like is not ready yet to join the program, they learned a lot and how to think about it. If they are ready to join, they have the opportunity to be part of a great community. So I feel it's a win-win. Like everyone learned a lot, including myself, how to think about like the retirement and do the calculation. It's always a question we all struggle. How to think and how to decide it, and it's very critical. So I cannot thank you enough, and for everyone who's joining us like live and stayed that long with us, thank you so much. And that's proof like it was a very informative session. And stay tuned. I will be putting the link on the community group, so feel free to join. And the community group will give you link for WhatsApp or Slack, whichever communication you prefer. We'll be announcing the video there, and keep an eye on the channel. And Bradley, I think. I don't think it will be the last time to have you here on Code with Sally. You have a lot of experience. You have a lot of tips and tricks and things like people can learn from. So expect us like to ask you for another session in the future again on Code with Sally. And anyone, if you have any questions, I will do my best to collect the URLs and the links we shared during the session and put it in the description. But if I missed anything, you have any question, you know how to reach out to Bradley, or you can reach out to me, and I will do my best to get you the answer you're looking for. And again, thank you so much for your time, Bradley. It's really appreciated the amount of wisdom you shared with us and the experience through the years. So it was a
For
great
sure.
pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you for having me on. Truly, I appreciate it. I'm happy to come on anytime. And thank you, everyone, for spending time with me and letting me talk at you for 2 hours. It's appreciated.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you in the next session for Code with Sally and the next event. Thank you so much.